when I kind of heard that Ebola had actually entered Sierra Leone, I remember very early in the morning on the radio on the 25th of May, it would have been in 2014. And it came over from the border in a neighboring country in Guinea because a family had visited and they had come back, and without realizing it, some people started dying and nobody knew what was going on because it was completely uncharted waters for us. Then we had some kind of snippets of news about Ebola breaking out in Uganda, but that sounded so far away. Anyway, when that happened, as soon as it happened, I actually jumped on the phone and got on to my partners in that particular region, and I informed them that I had just heard that Ebola is now officially in Sierra Leone. And apparently, the partner was just on his way to hold a session with a group of villagers in the same community where Ebola had just broken out. Anyway, so we got to work, contacted the UK, contacted our partners in the ACT Alliance within the sub-region of Sierra Leone and Liberia, and we put together a quick response funding application where we wanted to look at sensitizing people and communities around Ebola and around the behaviors and practices of washing of hands and not touching dead bodies and all of that. Anyway, there was a lot of confusion during the initial stages where people were afraid of ambulances because we got to hear from our groups that we work with that because of the color of the ambulances being black, black is really a bad omen within the culture in Sierra Leone. And people were scared, they were running away from the ambulances, they were taking their sick babies with them into the bushes. So I think all that kind of education needed to happen, but there was so much happening, all so very fast, that the INGOs then got together. We had lots of meetings with MSF, who are Medicines Sans Frontières, who were really at the forefront of the fight in the initial stages. Even they were confused, and they were saying things like, people should stop their culture. But how does one stop their culture? And the issue as well around the impact on women and girls was really massive, because within the context of Sierra Leone, as in many places, it is the women who actually have the main caregiving role, and they were looking after sick relations, sick parents, sick children, sick grandchildren. So a lot of women got infected. And we actually then set to work with our partners in identifying certain areas and working with the Ministry of Health at the time, working in collaboration with other INGOs who had set themselves up into consortia to work in the area of public messaging and making sure that we use the right messengers. And it was then that we started engaging our faith leaders, because we know that in Sierra Leone, everyone has a faith of some sort. And the two biggest religions are Islam and Christianity. So we actually, work through those faith leaders and work through leaders in women's group in our villages that we work in. We worked through traditional healers as well, whom they obviously, are accustomed to, they understand them, they speak their language and all of that. So we actually worked through those agents of change, and really we found that the whole Ebola situation really flipped for the better when we included the communities. Having said that, we're aware that this virus is quite clever and it does come back. So I think the mindset was there in terms of the preparation, and the structures were in place. So when it did re-emerge, unfortunately, about 69 days after being declared Ebola-free on the 7th of November of 2015, we had a new case in the northern part of Sierra Leone, which was, so I think the people were more prepared, and all the structures kind of revved into action, and that meant that the cases were kind of stopped quite quickly, and I don't think we moved further than 2 cases. But I think what we're doing now as Christian Aid is to kind of leverage on the positive effects of the Ebola situation, and one big one is the issue of the role of faith leaders and communities. They really led from the front when they were allowed to, and we want to use this now as we transition into early recovery and development, and to leverage this renewed energy and zeal for leadership and ownership of their own destiny.